Hey Mom Togs, it's Elizabeth here with Mommy's Gonna Snap and Ginger Snap Studios. And today I'm doing a quick screen test to make sure this recording works and we can see everything we want to see. And I'm assuming in this video you have a basic knowledge of layers and basic knowledge of some Photoshop basics, how to use the brush tool, for example. This is a photo of my daughter who turned 1 yesterday, and I'm just going to be using this as an example to show you how I brighten up skin, adjust the skin tone, pop the eyes just a little bit, and bring an overall feel of sharpness to the hair and the relevant parts that need sharpness, like the eyes, the little edges of the nose, the mouth, and then how I soften and blend the skin. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to keep this very short and sweet for you tonight. First thing that we are going to do is we are going to use a curves layer. Now a curves adjustment layer, if you go to layer, new adjustment layer, and curves, is a very powerful, amazing tool in Photoshop. This is going to take your histogram and it's going to evaluate your dark tones all the way to your light tones and allow you to pull things up and down and fiddle with all the different color ranges. It's phenomenal. I will do another video on this later. I absolutely promise I will. But for now, we are just going to concern ourselves with the default regular RGB area of this image. We're talking all the colors, all the light and darks, and we just want to pull these midtones and we want to brighten them up. Now what I want to make sure of when I'm doing this is that I'm not blowing the highlights on her face right here. The sun was coming in from this direction over here because we're sitting on the porch, and I don't want her color to be too blown out. So this looks good. I've got a pure white on the color and her skin tone, like we've got this nice little highlight area here, but we're not blown out. We're not losing definition. That's what you want to look for. So pull those highlights up a little bit. This looks really good for me. Now I'm going to add a soft light layer. And the way that you do this, you go to layer, new fill layer, solid color. When the dialog box opens up, you go to this little mode panel and you're going to click soft light. This is your blending mode right here. These are very important. We will delve more into these in multiple videos because they all do something different and they're so much fun to play with. The opacity I'm going to set at 40% and I'm going to click OK. Now the default opening is white. You can see that it's kind of added this white hazy light to everything. But what I want for her skin tone is I want to go down here into this red-orange range where we're going to get a nice peachy color. And I want it to be a little bit more red, so I'm going to slide this down right about here. We've got this like really pretty peachy rosy color somewhere in the middle of there. I'm going to click OK when I'm happy with the color. Now, what I don't like is I don't like this on the background. I don't really want it on her hair because it's making her hair look way more red than it normally is. And I don't want it to kind of, if I click on and off this, you'll see how it kind of mutes the contrast of the image and it makes it kind of little one-dimensional. I don't want that. I just want this tone on her skin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here on my layer mask and I'm going to hit Control I or Command I if you're on a Mac, and I'm going to grab just a soft white brush, resize my brush a little bit bigger, and then I'm just going to paint this on her skin, making sure I get it up into her hairline. I'm going to avoid her eyes because I don't want to add this peachy orangey color to the whites of her eyes because that will look weird. And I'm going to make sure I get her arms down here. You might think, why are you painting the arms? Like, I mean, they're not the focus of the image. If you don't paint the arms, it's going to look like she has two different skin tones, and that's going to look very weird. a peachy pinky baby up top here is not going to have purple Smurf looking arms down here. Just detail oriented edits, if you're going to edit, are the best in my opinion. So if you're going to do editing, you're going to mess with skin tones and stuff, you got to take it those extra steps. So this is this is before we added the soft light layer, and this is after. And then I'm going to cut curves off and back on. And you can just see this total transformation of this image. We've got some beautiful light added in here. It looks a little happier, which is very yay, first birthday for me. And we can see we've got this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous skin tone coming in here. Now what I'm going to do, because I really want her to pop and I really like the contrast of this original image with that little bit of a darker background, is I'm going to go in here to this curves layer. I'm going to select my black brush, and I've just clicked on this little double arrow here. Make my brush a little bit bigger. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to paint this off the background only of the image, and I'm going to see how I like that. Now I haven't done that in my little practicing edits just to see if I could maybe hopefully figure out how to do this. I haven't done it, so I'm going to see how I like this. It's really organic playing around with you guys for tonight. So you're getting the real deal every time that I do one of these videos. You are so getting me in whatever state I'm in. Screaming kids in the background. I made my brush a little smaller. I'm just running this by her face. I'm gonna make sure that I get like all of these areas. Oh, and see how gorgeous that contrast is. Like, this is without that. This is with that. Oh, I missed a couple spots over here. That's gonna bug me. Okay. This is just gorgeous. This is without the curves. That pop of light on her face, which it's a good shot. But if you're looking for that three-dimensional, real life, just total pop, you add in this extra little light here. And even if you think this is too much, you can bring it down just a little bit, maybe around 70 for something really natural and organic. And like, just look at that difference. And this is the background layer, the original image with the curves but without that skin tone. And just look at that, how that skin tone just makes her pop. It's so important, all these little tiny details. Okay, now I'm going to take this. I'm really happy with this. I love this contrast. I love her popping off this image like this. I'm going to go to layer, and I'm going to flatten the image. And I know there are so many people out there that will tell you not to do that. But if you're happy with it, there's no reason not to do that. There really isn't. As long as you're happy with what you're doing and you still have your original file, there's no reason not to flatten your image. You can always start over if you have your original file. Right. Now I'm going to duplicate this layer, which you can do by right-clicking on the background layer and clicking duplicate layer. You can also go up here to layer, duplicate layer. So that's made me a copy of my background image. Now what I'm going to show you right now is how I'm going to soften her skin. This is a really cool trick. With the duplicated layer selected, and go to filter, other, high pass. I like to use around 10 pixels or so. I work with really, really large file sizes. You can definitely slide this down, slide it up, whatever you feel like you need to do. But I like to keep mine around 10. That works for me. I'm going to click OK. Then I'm going to change this. This is the blending mode options here. I'm going to change this to a soft light layer. Now, you can see this has added some sharpness. If I click on and off here, like her eyes pop more, the details of her face pop a little more. What I'm going to do to turn this into a softening layer is I'm going to invert it just like you invert the layer mask. So I'm going to click Control I with this selected, and there we go. It now looks really soft and fuzzy. Now what I'm going to do is add a layer mask, and I'm going to invert the layer mask by clicking Control or Command I again. And this is going to allow me to paint this on. And I am going to use my soft white brush, and I'm just going to paint this on in the areas of her skin that I want to soften. I don't want to soften everything on her face. I just want to soften kind of the big areas, so to speak. You know, I want to avoid the creases. I want to avoid her eyes and her eyebrows. I just want to add just a touch of this kind of painterly, soft baby look that gets rid of the camera really picking up all of those super duper duper fine details like pores and stuff on her face. I might do the inside of her ear right here, but I'm going to leave the outer edges alone. Those sorts of things. So you really just want to think really consciously about your softening and how realistic you want it to look. If you're going for super whimsical, you could always soften more. So here's the difference here, on and off, on and off. It's very subtle. If you want more, you can always go in here and duplicate that layer. And then if I cut both of these off, you'll see this is the original image, and then one on, and then two on. You get this really nice softness. This is looking closer to baby smooth skin. I might duplicate it one more time. That's looking really pretty now, and I might just back this off just a touch down to 70%. Yeah, I'm happy with that. She's got a little bit of a glow. All the colors are kind of blending together. She looks really, really soft and pretty, and I really like that. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this background again. Oh, I'm sorry for all the sniffing. My allergies are going completely crazy lately. So I just dragged this up to the top, and I'm going to go into Filter, Other, High Pass, and I'm going to click OK. Switch the blending mode over here to Soft Lights, and I'm going to add a layer mask, and I'm going to invert the layer mask, and I'm just going to be sharpening with my white brush selected what I want to sharpen. I want to sharpen her hair and her headband because I love those details, and around her head. I want those lines to be very sharp, and around her collar, and I want around this number 1 to be sharp because it's her first birthday. I'm just going to do around there, and I'm going to do these lines here. I'm going to do around her sweet face. I'm going to do across her eyes and kind of including her eyebrows here. I want that nice and sharp. And then around her nose and then her mouth. I want all of that sharp. So this is without and with. And you can see there's a huge, huge difference there. And it's fabulous. So this is really, really getting to be in a very happy place. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little pop of brightness to her eyes. Let's do this like I'm really happy with where this is right now. So I'm going to layer, flatten image, and I'm going to go to layer, new adjustment layer, brightness and contrast. Now while I'm doing this, I'm just focusing on her eyes. I want to add a little bit of brightness and a little bit of contrast, and I'm going to be happy with that, I think. I mean, her eyes look pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is invert this mask with Control I or Command I if you're on a Mac. I'm going to make my brush a little smaller. I'm going to zoom in. I like to use a keyboard shortcut for this. Control plus or Command plus on your keyboard. And I'm going to use a soft white brush. And I'm just going to go in here and paint this very carefully. I might make my brush a little smaller. So you can work in these fine detail little spaces over her eye. Now the trick with eye edits is you really want to make sure you don't overdo it. You don't want it to look unnatural or crazy. Oh, I really want to, my baby almost has like almost greenish sort of eyes, but that's kind of lost in the shadow. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do another layer, brightness layer. I'm going to see if we can bring up that color a little bit without it being too weird. Like, see how it's bringing up the green in her eye right here? Might lower that just a little bit. Let's go with that. All right, I'm going to try this and see how this works. So I inverted this layer with Control I again after I was happy with that amount of green I was seeing. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is use my brush and I'm going to paint this just on the colored parts of her eye. Like that. And I think that's going to be a bit much. I can kind of already tell just by looking at the rest of her face. But if we zoom out, that's looking not too terribly bad, but we're going to back this off. I'm going to put it maybe like at 50%. Yeah, there we go. We just get that little hint of green there where she's got those kind of funny colors coming in. I like that. I'm happy with that. So this is without and with just very subtle color changes. And those small subtle color changes make such a huge difference. It's amazing the impact that that has. All right, now the last thing that I will show you. We're going to flatten this again. I'm going to duplicate this layer. I want to do a little artistic editing. I'm going to show you how to do this. So over on this side panel, you have all these buttons. You should have a lollipop looking button. This is your dodge tool. The dodge tool lightens areas. The little fist pinchy finger looking tool is a burn tool. It darkens areas. We're going to play with these a little bit on this background copy only. So I want to bring a little bit more catch light into her eyes. So I'm going to zoom in with Control or Command plus. And I'm going to scroll up to her eyes. And I'm going to make my brush teeny tiny. And I have my tone set as midtones. My exposure's at 10%. My airbrush should be clicked on. Protecting tones is clicked on. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint just a little bit underneath her eye just to add even more feeling of just light being there. Back off just a little bit. So this is before and after, and you can see just a very subtle pop there. And now I'm going to work on her skin just a little bit. And make my brush a little bit bigger. Now, when you're talking about dodging and burning, what you're really talking about is kind of contouring like with makeup. So we talk about where the light naturally hits the face. The light naturally is going to hit the face on the forehead. The light's naturally hitting here, on the cheeks, on the chin, on this other cheek area, and on the tip of the nose. We also have light here, light here, light here, and a little light kind of on the edges of the arms here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and we're going to select the burn tool. Now, the burn tool is going to add depth, shadow, darkness. So make my brush the same as what size it was before. And when we contour with makeup, what we do is we go around the edges of the face. And we're going to do the shadow area here and around the edge of the ear and underneath the ear. We have shadow under here. We have shadows in our creases, so we're just going to do that a little bit. I'm going to avoid doing the eyes because there's a little bit of darkness there naturally already. We don't want to overdo it. But I do sometimes like to do the eyebrows. It just adds a nice little pop of contrast. We'll do the crease of the neck here, and we'll do the inner arms right here, and maybe underneath the collar right there. And then I'm going to do the hair just a tiny bit more, tiny bit here. I'm going to grab my dodge tool a little bit, and I'm going to just stroke in where there's some highlights. I think it's always good wherever you have the opportunity to pick up just a little extra pop of light to try to play with that a little bit. So this is before and after, and you can see like that is a dramatic change, but it's really changed our image. It's really just brought some extra life and vibrancy to it. It looks a little bit more 3D, a little more painted, and I just absolutely love the effect of playing with those dodge and burn tools. So I am so happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and go to layer, flatten the image. And I think that this is going to be a portrait that I will hang in my house or put in her baby book to commemorate her first birthday. I just love the little look on her face. It's so pretty. So again, this was just a very quick editing video. This is a test. I'm hoping my screen editing worked. Give me a shout out in the comments if this worked, if you liked it, if you want to see more. Please click subscribe and you will be updated whenever I do another video. I am going to be doing a video on adding matte and changing grass color for a request from a very dear friend of mine in my next editing video. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Again, comment, click subscribe, join my Facebook group. You guys are awesome. I love you. You can do this. If I can do this with 4 kids, you can do this. Okay? It is possible. I'm here to help you. Love you guys and have a great night.